Oh, oh God. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Gapesy here. This is the normal quick raid guide for Siegecrafter Blackfuse. As usual, if you'd like the full guide with more detail, you can click on the annotation, or you can check out any of the role-specific guides, which will give you the basics for those roles. Let's go ahead and get started. So the most important mechanic for this fight is the assembly line and the weapon parts, which you can see in the top left of the screen there. These will spawn every 30 seconds and slowly travel down the assembly line, which is on the north side of the room. Now, when any players use the transport pipes that are along the west wall that are not covered in smoke, they'll be transported to the assembly line. And this will allow the players to run against the conveyor belt and attack the parts that are spawning there. Now, you need a rotation of at least 2 different groups of players because of the destabilization debuff that's applied, which lasts for a minute, but the assembly parts come out every 30 seconds. Now, when you attack and kill an assembly part, the other parts will become immune to damage for that wave, and they will continue to the other side where they're formed up into weapons eventually. So the best thing you can do is rotate a couple groups of players. We use 2 groups of 2 players each to rotate onto the assembly line every 30 seconds. And this way they can always kill at least one weapon part. And when you reach the end of the conveyor belt, you step into the pipes at the end and you're transported back to the main platform. Now, once enough of the parts for a particular weapon type have reached the end of the conveyor belt successfully and gone to the other side, they will form it into an attacking weapon. There are 4 different weapons. So we have the laser turret, which will shoot, as you might imagine, lasers that chase random players and leave fire trails. We have the missile turret, which shoots a missile that explodes out into waves, kind of along a half circle or circle pattern that you can dodge. We have the electromagnet magnet, which will pull everything toward it, including saw blades from the boss and players. As you can see there, it's kind of pulling against me. And then finally, we have the crawler mines, which are the most important and probably the most difficult to deal with. These will spawn mines that will chase random raid members, and upon reaching them, they'll explode and deal massive damage to the raid. These can be CC'd in various forms, so the best thing to do is to stun or slow them and have your ranged DPS kill the mines before they reach the targeted player. Now, handling Siegecrafter himself and the automated shredder is really the domain of your tank players. You'll need 2 tanks for this fight, and for the most part, the tank that's tanking Siegecrafter will get a stacking debuff that does pretty heavy damage to them every stack, called electrostatic charge. However, each stack of this also increases the damage they will deal to the automated shredder ad by 200% per stack. So after 3 or 4 stacks, usually a shredder will come out and the tank swap will occur, and the tank that now has electrostatic charges will pick up the shredder. This tank then holds the shredder at least 35 yards away from the boss, which will prevent the boss from healing the shredder, and the tank will try to tank the shredder within a environmental effect on the ground. The best thing we found was to tank it inside the saw blades that the boss throws out, because this does very heavy, consistent damage to the shredder. But if there are no saw blades active, then the tank should try to tank the shredder in the fire patches left by the lasers. All of these environmental effects will do damage to the shredder in addition to, players as they normally would. So it's a really good idea for the tank to quickly pick up that new shredder when a swap occurs, and then immediately pull it into a blade if there is one, or multiple blades if you can do it right, or the fire if there are no blades active. The goal is to have the tank focus on the shredder solely, because all other DPS do 20% normal damage to the shredder because they do not have the electrostatic charge buff on them. And believe it or not, mechanically that's the entire fight. So basically you just get your couple groups assigned to rotate through the assembly line, killing off the most important weapon part that you want to get rid of. So we would always kill the crawler mine weapon part if there was one available. and, well, not always, but we tried to anyway. And otherwise, kind of just left the laser or the missile turret alone because those are pretty easy to avoid. Other than that, just handle the tanking of the boss and the shredders appropriately. Most of the success of this fight will revolve around the assembly line players and your tanks doing their jobs properly. The rest of the raid just stays out here in the main platform and does DPS to the crawler mines if they're active, otherwise attacks the boss. If at any point a assembly team fails to destroy one of the weapon parts, the boss will become almost immune to damage for 20 seconds. He takes 10% normal damage for the duration. So it's really important that a weapon part is killed every single time the assembly line activates. But other than that, it's the same from the beginning to the end. The fight never really changes. So it's all about execution and just surviving until you get him down. That is the quick raid guide for Blackfuse. Good luck, and thanks for watching.